Welcome guys, Mel here from Mel's Motors. Today I've got my friend Renault Master here. It's failed the MOT on the lower ball joint. It's pretty much hanging out. I'll show you that in a second. He replaced the ball joint on the other side some time back. Now this side's gone. My son was just talking to him and he said, oh no, to do this you've got to drop the subframe, stick it in the press the ball joint out. But I'm going to show you that's not what you have to do. So stick around and we'll get this ball joint off. So I've got Harley just moving the hub in and out, and you can see the ball joint is really bad. Anyway, we're going to get this removed and then we'll see how difficult it is to change. Okay, so I've got the caliper out of the way so you can have a better look at this, because when we were wiggling it, it looked like that the joint was loose and the end of the ball joint was moving in the socket. So I don't know if you can see that, but the ball joint is actually loose in this clamp joint. Now the ball joint's hardened steel and this is cast iron, so if this has been wiggling around for some time, there's a possibility that the ball joint may have worn out this socket. So I'll try and pinch it up. If it doesn't work, then we're going to have to get the ball joint out and see what kind of damage there is in there. Wow, that's pretty tight. Yep, that's still moving, and that's really tight. Can't get it any tighter. Okay, so I'm going to show you we're going to get these ball joints out. Now, the way the system works on this is you have an upper arm and a lower arm. The upper arm is a sprung arm, which means there's a spring around the back there. I'll show you that in a second. So once you jack it up, the upper arm drops, pushing the suspension down, and when it pushes it down, it locks out the shock absorber, and then you have no way of pulling this ball joint out the bottom. Most of the time this bolt doesn't come out. It usually seizes in the lower arm, but it also seizes in the bushing that's inside the shock absorber. Top does a very similar thing. So unless we can get enough movement on the shock absorber by getting the suspension up, you're not just going to get the suspension up just by looking at it, so we're going to have to make it go up and keep it up. Okay, so we have a look in here, we can see this, the coil spring pushes onto the back end of this arm, and the arm is hinged at this point, and from here it pushes well, the leg down when you jack up, but once the wheel's on, that becomes the active suspension. So what we need to do is we need to jack the disc up. Once the disc's jacked up, and then we need to lock the upper suspension arm, and I'll show you how we do that in a second. I've just noticed whilst we're on this job, when the wheel's on, you can't see this brake hose too well. Now that I've got the caliper off, the hose is chafed through, and over here it's gone through to the cords, which is an MOT failure. Once this job's done, it'll have to be retested, but now that I've seen that, it's going to fail on that, so we've ordered a hose so we don't have any issues later on. But yeah, it's very difficult to see sometimes with wheels on, under trays on, seal covers on, engine covers on. You can only see what you can see, but now that this is twisted, I can see it's been chafing through, so we'll get that done as well. So I've got my trolley jack here. I'm going to put the trolley jack up here on the ramp. I'm going to jack this disc up so we get the suspension lifted. We'll do that now, and then I'll explain to you what I'm going to do next. So my jack's set up. As I'm lifting the disc, there's a 6mm bolt here that holds the disc onto the hub. I've put 2 wheel bolts in case that fails and the disc pops off, and then there's all that energy in that spring, and I don't want the suspension arm just to come straight down on me again. So we're going to jack it up. So we can see the upper arm going up. So I'm going to go until this just comes off the jack, and then that way I know I've got the full weight of the vehicle onto this brake disc. So I don't know if you can see, we can see the spring at the back. So now this arm is lifted. So what we're going to do is, to hold this in its place, is we're going to stick a socket into this gap. Now once that tension comes down, that will lock in there, but you're going to have to look hard to find a socket to fit in there. This just happened to be a socket which I'd machined down for a job. It's just the right size. Okay, so as you can see, it's wedged in there properly, it's not going to go anywhere, and we've taken the pressure off the entire system, and we've taken the pressure off the shock absorber. The shock absorber is no longer locked out. Now the next hurdle is to try and undo either the bottom bolt or the top bolt, just to release that shock absorber from the system, so we have some sort of movement to bring the lower arm down. This is a double hex bolt. It's got a double hex socket, 21mm, and then we're going to see if we can undo this. It's the first time ever I've ever had one of these come out. Now the other thing is, this bush in the centre here is pressed into this hub. So the next challenge is to get this out of this. So time to get a big bar. Okay, so that's definitely seized in there. So I'm going to get my heat inductor and apply some heat on there. The rubber bush is going to get hot, so we're going to get some smouldering off that, but we've got no choice but to try and heat that up. Before I go down that road, I'm just going to try the upper one. If the upper one comes free and we get that out, then we're going to have to mess about here. Well, that's another first for Renault. Okay, so we've got this free from the top, therefore we don't have to mess about down here. I can actually stick that back in. Okay, shock's free. Next thing to do is undo this ball joint. Okay, well that bar wasn't doing it, so I've got my bigger bar. It's moving, but just not enough to get it. So I'm going to push down on the bar. I've got Harley is going to put the pry bar under the ball joint and see if he can push it down. Okay. Okay, pull it out.
Put it back in?
Yeah. So we can just pull it out. Sticking to something.
Oh, it felt like it wanted to come. It's getting close. What if we hammer this in between, because that's completely out now, so if we hammer it in between the two.
Sometimes hammering it in, back out again.
Yeah. Like it was coming. What if you have the chisel in there at the same time? That make it better.
Maybe.
There it is. It's out.
Yeah. Don't get your hand trapped in there.
Right. Yeah, it's out. That was ridiculous.
Okay, bit of a battle. Took about 10 minutes. We've got it out. We just need to get this a little bit higher. Unless I can try and get this arm lower. Where it's bolted up to the main subframe. It's bolted to the rubbers, and the rubbers are just so tight they just will not twist. So I can either try and jack this back up just to give me a bit of room to work, or I can try and use a port of power, just try and push the arm down. I'll try the trolley jack first because it's right here, before I go and get more tools. Okay, we're free. To be fair, there's no actual play in that ball joint. The play was between this and the hub. I have got a ball joint here. I'm just going to go see if it fits better in there before we start stripping any more stuff. Very good. This joint's worn out. Yep, it's damaged inside. Right, so what I'm going to try and do, I'm going to go get the heat inductor. I'm going to get this cherry red and I'm going to see if I can pinch it just to make it a bit tighter. If I can, then hopefully be able to throw it back in and be able to pinch it back to the point where we made it tighter. Other than that, it's a new hub. Okay, so my heat inductor set up now. If you're wondering why I don't put this on, heat it up and then clamp it, it's because I won't be able to get the heat in where I need it. The hinge point of this clamp is back here, and once it's on I won't be able to heat it up to be able to move the ends in. And this bolt goes in pretty tight, so in theory once that's in, it's not going to be able to swing in anyway, so we may have to make these pinch bolt holes slightly bigger so that there's movement when you're trying to close that gap, because this had to be hammered out. So I can do one or two things. Honestly, I'd rather not modify this because this is part of the car. I can stick this in the lathe and just take maybe 1/2 mil off it, and I'll just give enough wiggle room to be able to pinch that joint shut. So I'm going to head over to the lathe, machine that down, and then I'll come back. So we're at the lathe. It's a bit noisy, I'm sorry, but look at the state of this bolt. Yeah, it's crooked as hell. Even if I turn it around and hold it at the shaft end, you can see it's bent. I can't do anything with that. So thankfully we keep some spare bolts, so we just need to find one that kind of matches this one. It looks like it might be this. Yeah, these are the ones that are too thin, they're for smaller vehicles. So this one looks like it's the closest. I'll measure the diameter, see if it's any good, and kind of go from there. So I've got this one here. Uh, 1185, and this one here 1181. So it's roughly the same size, but remember I need to take about 1/2 mil off this or so, so we've got that flex in the joint. Okay, bolts machined down. I've machined the shank down to the same thickness as the thread. So if I put it in this way, so it goes in and out, and we've got that extra bit of flex so that we can pinch that end in. I haven't heated it up yet. Now that I've done this, I'm quite confident that if we put it back together and pinch this up, I think it may pull by itself and pinch up. If I heat it and over pinch it, now that I've made the bolt like this, if that's too tight I'll never get it in, and then that's just going to be a bigger problem in itself. So I know it took a while for us to get it out, about 10 minutes work. I'd rather put 10 minutes work into it than trying to fix that afterwards. It's definitely getting stiffer. Done it. It's fixed it. So we've taken up the slack by machining down the bolt. So we've got that extra pinch now, and it's not pinching up on the bolt. You saw how bent that bolt was. It was bent because it'd been tightened to a point where it tried to bend itself as opposed to tightening up. So now that we've machined that down, we've got that clamped. But if this ball joint never goes again, it's probably going to need a new hub. Okay, so we're going to put this back together. I'm going to put the caliper back on, and then when the hose turns up, we'll do the hose replacement. I also noticed on here there's a little pinhole in the CV boot and no grease coming out. If I just pull that back and have a look with a torch, it's bone dry and there's no grease in there at all. I'll advise the customer and he can try and address that himself. Well, this job isn't without its issues. This is a top shock absorber bolt, probably 2 threads in there, and it started spinning on me. Just pulled it back out. Half the threads are damaged in there. I've got another bolt, slightly longer, so I'm hoping I'll be able to catch some more threads at the back. Otherwise, we're going to have to do something with that. But as of right now, I'm going to try and see if this will work. So I got this bolt most of the way in, and it started to bind on the back threads where it's corroded. So I've just gone over to my disc cutter. I've put some grooves in here to turn this into a tap. I'm going to use some ceramic grease, and that'll be my cutting paste. The little fine ceramic fragments in there will assist it to go through. There's plenty of thread back there. I just needed a longer bolt, so this should do the job. Okay, so the bolt's in. You can just see on the far left hand side it's just come out, and there's also brought some corrosion and rust out with it. So if you struggle to get more thread, put some grooves into the back of your bolt, make it into a tap so you can use that one bolt, because there's no way we get a tap in there, and some ceramic grease or some cutting paste or even some grease that should help you cut through that. Even copper grease will help, but the copper fragments are quite soft, so but at least if you put something in there, you'll have more of a chance of getting through than without it. So that's another job repaired. So half of the thread was missing in here, and the bolt was a good 15mm shorter, so it was just spinning in there. But that's done now. I just need to retrieve my socket, so I'm going to get my trolley jack back up, and then we'll get that socket out of there so that we can drop the suspension again. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I did have in the title as ball joint replacement for Renault Master. I didn't actually change the ball joint in the end, but this video shows how easy it is to replace the ball joint. The thing is, you've got to understand how the suspension system works so you can do a workaround. In this particular instance, we have to jack the suspension up, lock it out. Now I use a socket. Just be mindful, this is not a tutorial, this is a video for your entertainment. This is something that I've been doing for years, never had an issue, but there's so much tension in that spring. If God forbid whatever you put in there comes out, it is going to come out at you like a missile. So be mindful of what you're doing. I replaced the brake hose that was frayed, did it off camera. Also needed 2 rear brake hoses as part of the MOT. But this video was to show you how you can do a lower arm without doing anything more than just what I did. The customer had the subcontractor to replace the lower arm because I had to press it out. You don't need to do a lower arm on these for a ball joint, only if you're doing an arm, but it's very rare you do an arm on these, but most of the time the bolt sees. As always guys, if you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, subscribe button and the bell notification so you're notified next time I upload a video. If you're interested in more videos like this, there'll be a couple there for you. Enjoy those. Take care guys.